Webinar is now streaming live on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, everyone, or just Bridget maybe right now. Bridget, does it look like I'm lagged? Webinar is now streaming live. That's me.
Yeah, you're lagging a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know why. Maybe it just needs. That's annoying. On my phone. If you're watching this live, sorry, I don't have the ability to see you just yet, or see that I'm even on, so I don't know. Bridget, are you still with me? No. Oh.
I am. I'm here.
Cool. All right. I think hi everybody. It's quite choppy, the video. Yeah, we're hoping that figures itself out. Sorry, I'm getting phone calls left and right. Do not disturb. All right, I think we're good to go now. Hi, my name is Kyle. I'm the host at MedCircle. Also live with us right now is our head of content, Bridget. She's not on camera, but she is the voice, as we say. Hi, Bridget. Clearly there is a major delay.
Hi.
Okay, so we're hopping on just to say hello to our YouTube viewers and anybody who maybe sees this during the middle of the day on Monday. I saw a question today posed by NAMI on their Instagram. And the question went something a little like this. I don't remember the exact verbiage, but it was essentially, what's the most important thing your therapist has ever told you? Or what's the most important question your therapist has asked you? If you feel comfortable answering that question in the chat live, I'll read some out and maybe we can have a discussion about this. None yet, but I'm sure there's still a delay from me speaking and it appearing on YouTube. I know exactly the most important question I've ever been asked in therapy. And I believe I've shared it on some MedCircle videos. I don't think any that we have on YouTube, but videos we have at watch.medcircle.com. I'll share that in a little bit, but we have some of your answers coming in. So Steve says, every session, how can I help you today? Looks like, Steve, you're either a mental health professional, or maybe that's what your professional asks you every day. Hello. What is your why? Ooh, Erica, really good question. I think we've probably heard variations of that question. What is your why? My stepmother, Michelle, told me this years ago, and it's very popular. Maybe perhaps you've heard it, but the importance of going deep with your why. Why are you exercising? Because you want to be healthy. Okay. If that's your why, then that's a good start. But why do you want to be healthy? Well, I want to be alive a long time. Why do you want to be alive a long time? Because I have 2 kids and I want to see them grow up. Okay, so the reason you exercise is so you can see your grandchildren. That's a really powerful reason to go to the gym. Going to the gym because you want to lose 5 pounds, big deal. We all do, okay? So going to the gym because you want to see your grandchildren grow up, there's a real why. I love that. I would love to answer that, but I was never able to see a therapist because I am broke. I hear you, Nino. Maybe some of these questions will prompt some inspiration for you today. Melanie is saying, do I feel safe? Really interesting question. I think that is a good question. I feel safe a lot of the time. So that question caught me off guard a little bit. But I can see in the struggle of day-to-day stress or in the middle of ongoing trauma, You might not be asking yourself that. You might be in survival mode, protective mode. But when you get that space to really check in with yourself to see if you feel safe, pretty powerful. I've never had a therapist that asked me deep questions besides the one that I had in the hospital. And he asked me if maybe my trauma could have come from my mother. And you're really glad he asked you that. That's good. Maybe he was onto something. Great question. Do you feel comfortable saying no? You know, I'm a big fan of Oprah, and Oprah really preaches in a lot of her interviews saying no. The one step I take farther with the no thing is no is a complete sentence. For a long time, I was pretty good at saying no, but I explained myself. No, I can't do your podcast because I'm really busy and we have some other priorities, but if things change, I'll let you know, blah, blah, blah. Now I just go, I can't do your podcast. Thank you. And that's it. And everyone's cool with it. Everyone's fine, you know, as long as you're polite. But no is a complete sentence. Probably the worst wound a therapist ever inflicted was you never loved. Okay. What's your purpose in life? Wow. Your therapist asked you what's your purpose in life? I've never had a therapist ask me that. I don't recall. I've had maybe too many therapists, all because I've moved so much in my life. But it is the question, not to bring Oprah up back to back, but why not bring Oprah up back to back? Wisdom of Sundays is one of my favorite books of all time, not just from, you know, the Oprah ecosphere. It is, in my opinion, a must read if you are searching for your purpose. It's a must read if you are searching for your purpose. And if you're searching for your purpose, well done, but don't give up until you find it. I think having, knowing, understanding, going deep with the why for your purpose really sets the foundation for life. I'll share what my therapist shared with me. I moved from Hawaii to Florida, and I was very depressed. I was in my mid to late 20s, I believe, and incredibly depressed. And I was on medication, and I wasn't seeing improvement. And I was seeing a psychiatrist and a therapist, each of them once a week separately. And weeks were going by where I was seeing no improvement. And I honestly was getting very frustrated because I kept going to see this therapist. She was a very nice person, but I'm not coming here to just for niceness. I'm coming here for results. And I'd probably been in therapy 6 weeks, and I felt like I had just been where I had always been. I did not feel like I was improving. I didn't even feel marginal improvement. I felt static. I even felt perhaps maybe I was getting slightly worse. So I was really losing hope with this particular therapist. Perhaps that was wrong to do, but that is how I felt at the time. Until she asked me this question, which was, when do you feel most like yourself? And I answered the question very quickly. I said, when I'm doing this, it had to do with animals. I worked with animals for many years. And I essentially said, when I'm with animals, I feel most like myself. I feel at peace, happy. I am totally in the moment. I'm completely present. It's euphoric. You know, I feel incredible. And she said, when's the last time you've done that? And because of where I was in my career at the time, it had been many months. And that corresponded directly with the onset of depression. And in that moment, I kind of looked at her like this, and I told her, you know, I gave her my answer. And then I told her, you must be really proud of yourself, huh, that you just figured this out, you know, because she really answered, she asked me the perfect question. And what that gave me was two things. One, it put something in context for my depression, because for months I had been spinning my wheels going, I'm depressed and I don't know why. I'm depressed. I don't know why. I'm on medication. I'm going to therapy. I'm trying all these things, but I am still depressed. I don't understand why. There's nothing wrong in my life. And then she asked me this question and gave me the realization that I could say it's because of this change in my life. I had a big change in my life. It was the most important thing in my life, and it changed. So that is why I feel this way. That's why I'm responding this way. That's the first thing it gave me. The second thing it gave me was this immense amount of hope, because I go, okay, we're getting somewhere. And we didn't just have a little jump in therapy. We had a big jump in therapy. And that taught me a lesson that although you may not feel like therapy is providing you with progress, the progress might look like this, where it's static, 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 and then you have this big, shift. And I think that gave me a lot of patience for all the therapy I had in the future. Because even if I'm with a therapist and we're going for months and I don't feel like we're making progress, I know now that progress might be happening behind the curtain, so to speak. And I can be on my way to a big breakthrough like that. And that has occurred to me many times once I started actively participating in my therapy with this type of mindset. So that's my story. Does anybody else have questions or stories that you would like to share? Let me go through these. This is mind-boggling to me. Somebody just shared, my therapist told me I was useless, period, and I should never expect anything from my life. I believe you. It's hard for me to imagine somebody who's dedicated their life to helping others to say that to somebody, especially one of their own patients. I've had therapists fall asleep on me. I've had therapists spend the entire session while I'm in crisis, panic. I mean, bawling my eyes out, tell me I'm in good hands because he has a big library of clients who are famous. I mean, I walked out of that room so fast. I was like, you think I care that you have a famous client? I'm more interested if you know what you're doing, not if you can get a famous client. So I get that there are bad therapists out there. It just boggles my mind when they're blatantly so bad, you deserve better. If you feel like your therapist and you are not a match, then you're not a match because that is how you feel. I mean, that's my opinion. I'm not a doctor, but that's what I think. It took me a long time to get rid of one of my therapists because I was so worried about what he would think if I stopped going to him. Isn't that crazy to think about that? That I was worried about that, but I was really worried. I got over it. Let's see. I have fibromyalgia, so the spoon theory. You start the day with only so many. Getting out of bed, take 3 spoons out. I'm unaware of the spoon theory. It sounds interesting. I asked my therapist what the most important priority was for me. He said make a checkout for my fee. But I'm bummed. I hope he didn't say that. Or if my therapist that I would laugh. I would think that was funny if he intended it as a joke. If he's being serious, I'd walk away for sure. The problem is too, is you can say, oh, well, you got to find a different therapist. I used to say that all the time. I was like, find the therapist that's right for you, that's an expert in whatever you're going through and blah, blah, blah. Well, so many of us are just lucky to find a therapist. We don't have the luxury of finding the perfect therapist because supply and demand is very real. And there is way more demand and very little supply of professionals, let alone a professional who relates to you maybe on your gender, culture, or life history or life choices. A therapist who is affordable, that you can actually afford to go see, that perhaps takes your insurance or does insurance rebates, let alone a therapist you can get to, drive to, see, who has availability. I mean, it's very difficult. So it's hard sometimes to find the perfect therapist. And so there's a part of me that personally, I've told myself that I know it's going to be unlikely that I find the perfect therapist because I live in Phoenix, Arizona. There's only so many therapists. And if I design my perfect therapist, they might not even exist in Phoenix. They might be somewhere else. But I can find a therapist that's good enough. For me, I can find a therapist that's good enough for me. So there are certain things that I really want in a therapist. That would be a great subject for one of these live chats on like, what are the qualities you as a patient, as me, as someone with lived experiences and a patient, what do we want out of a therapist? That could be a good idea. Hi, Kyle. Hello. Thank you for your nice words. Will the stream be uploaded after it's over? I'm not sure, Erica. Bridget, are you still on? Are we uploading this stream later? I forget what we
We'll
decided.
get it up for a little bit.
Okay, yeah, we're gonna leave it up for a little bit. Yeah, and that's the someone just said, yep, true. Therapists are almost a taboo in my country. I get a lot of emails. I mean, MedCircle is in, I don't know, I haven't checked the country count, more than 60 or 80 countries, I imagine. It's been a while since I checked how many countries we were in, but it's a lot. And when I get emails from specific countries, so many of them start with here in my country, people don't believe in mental health, or we do not have therapists, or I could never tell somebody that. I mean, it's just, there's a part of me that thinks people in America, although there are so many people who are suffering right here in America, we do have it, quote, better than a lot of other countries when it comes to mental health stigma, mental access to mental health care, access to mental health education. It's one of the reasons I'm so proud of this YouTube channel, because you can watch hundreds, maybe thousands of hours at this point of free mental health education content, no matter where you are in the world. It's very powerful. Not that education replaces treatment, but as someone emailed me once, they said 5 hours of MedCircle suddenly made 5 years of therapy significant. I'm paraphrasing, but that was essentially what they said. And I thought that was such an interesting take on the power of education. And I understand that. You know, I've said many times, I was diagnosed with depression when I was 9 years old. I'm 35, and I learned about cognitive behavioral therapy when I was 31. So from 9 to 31, I was just in therapy, taking meds, didn't know what an SSRI was, never heard of cognitive behavioral therapy. Think how much different my life would be if I got educated on this stuff. What kind of therapist helps you, like a life coach or counselor, instead of just let you talk and stays quiet, like a psychiatrist or a psychologist? I'm looking for back and forth, not just listening. That's a great question. I think there's a few answers to that. One, again, I'm not a doctor, so I can't I mean, I guess I could give you my opinion, which I'm about to do, but I would certainly suggest reaching out to your current psychologist or therapist and bringing this up with them. And saying, hey, you asked me a question, you nod your head, and then you jot something in your book, but I'm over here going, what do you think? What's the deal? You know? And I have actually pushed back on many therapists that I've had. And I'll kind of chuckle when they say something like, well, tell me about your relationship with your father. You know, I'll go, okay, you know, you want to do this? I get what you're doing. Let's do it. And then sometimes they'll say something and then move on from it. And I'll go, no, hold on. Why did you ask me that? Like, why are we moving away from that? I'm really engaged and active. When I'm in therapy, probably half the time I feel like I'm co-piloting. Him and I, or her and I, are co-piloting the session. And then the other half the time I do let them lead, because if I'm in therapy, I might be talking or bringing up something that I don't really feel like co-piloting on. And the reason I'm paying you, Mr. and Mrs. Therapist, is to kind of take the lead here. Okay. So I don't want to talk about my childhood depression, but if you think that's important, then I'm just going to let you lead and I can just sit back and answer questions. But then the other half of the time I am engaged because I do want improvement. And I understand that my therapist's job isn't to make me better. They don't do that. They don't just sit in a room and boop, 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 you're better. If there is a therapist that does that, I would like a session, please. The job is to go, hey, that was really eye-opening. That was really interesting. Let me go home. Let me get some homework. Let me do some action. Let me do some implication of that idea, of that aha moment. Let me apply that. And then let me come back in a couple of weeks and tell you how it went, and then we'll go from there. That's the type of co-piloting, I've used that word a lot, that has worked better for me in my therapy. And you know what else I do is I always check in with my therapist at the start, because every therapist goes, I've had therapists who just wait for me to talk. Like, they don't say anything, they shake your hand, they point to the chair, and I sit down, and they're waiting for me to bring up whatever it is I'm going to bring up. I don't really like that because I'm like, I'm going to bring up whatever I'm going to bring up anyway, but I get every professional has their own way to do it, so to speak. But I'll push back, and so if I say, well, I've had actually a pretty good week, so I'm feeling pretty good today, and he'll go, well, that's good. Why are you feeling good? And I'll say, oh, I got a lot of good stuff going on, but didn't you come back from a cruise? How was that? Because I want a little rapport building, because I'm about to tell you some stuff that I maybe haven't told anybody, or I'm going to tell you something that I haven't talked about in many years. And so I would just like to check in with you and see how you're doing, before I just, that's what I do. Only because it makes me feel better. I don't know if it's right or wrong. There could be a therapist watching this who would be like, ugh, no, don't do that, for maybe a lot of reasons. Let's see if I can read any of these other questions. I pushed back with a therapist too. She was very blunt and didn't validate my feelings. I highly recommend giving advice to them or finding someone else who's a better fit. Yeah, and a blunt therapist for some, I think, is not a right fit, as you just explained. A blunt therapist for me, on the other hand, speaks my kind of language. I had my therapist was my psychiatrist, and my psychiatrist was my therapist for many years when I was in LA. And I remember one time we were talking about something with my relationship. And I said, well, I was unaware. And he goes, no, you weren't. I go, yeah. I was like, doctor, whoever. I'm like, yes, I was. And he goes, you're in denial. And I said, excuse me? He goes, you're in denial. I said, I can promise you I'm not in denial. He goes, that's literally what denial is. And I go, okay, well, you can think I'm in denial and I can think that I'm not. And we can both leave here today thinking different things about what's going on with me. And that's okay. And he's like, that's absolutely okay. But you asked, and I'm telling you, you're in denial. And I said, okay. And it took about, 12 hours after thinking about what we had talked during that session until I go, wow, I am in denial. Oh no, he was right. And I'm in denial. And so I went back the next week and I was like, doctor, I am in denial. You were right. And a lot of people would have fired him right then and there. And I know I get that because that's too blunt. That's too in your face. Maybe you're not ready to hear that you're in denial. Maybe you're not ready to hear that you keep choosing the same toxic partner over and over again. Maybe you're not ready to hear that you're not that giving and you don't really compromise that much in your relationships. Or maybe you're not ready to hear that you do not show affection to your children because you were not shown affection as a child, whatever it is. But if you have the relationship with your therapist, and you are ready to hear some of those things, for me, it feels really good because I want the truth, even if the truth hurts. And I understand the hypocrisy of me saying I want the truth, the therapist telling me I'm in denial and me denying his statement. So I'm not accepting the truth. But even in that scenario, I'm still glad he came to me with what he thought, even if I disagreed. So pushing back and having those conversations are good, but finding a therapist who kind of is like you. I talked to Ginger Z. She's the chief meteorologist at Good Morning America. Bridget, maybe we could put a link to that series. I think it's on YouTube, so we can link to it in the live chat. She told me about the therapist that she sees, who she loves, and the way she more or less described him was a very blunt, to the point, not warm, not welcoming, clinical guy. And she goes, that's what I needed in therapy. I got warmth and love with my husband. I got the caring and nurturing with my children and my parents and all these things. She's like, but when I go to therapy, I need someone to kind of grab my shoulders and say, now listen. And I was right there with her. I'm like, I get it. I'm emotionally able to take a lot of blunt feedback. And not because I've worked for it, and not because that makes me any better than anyone or anything else. Just that's how I am. That's just like the nature of my personality. I think it's innate within me. When I see therapists in the past in the UK, it's like they are reading off a script, plus they already tell me the basics that I can read off the internet or from a book. You bring up a great point here. So much of therapy is education, and that's why I believe, one of the reasons I believe in med circles so much, because you can go pay a psychiatrist $220 And on that first session, the majority of that session, which might only be 40 minutes, 50 minutes, might be 2 hours, maybe the first session's 2 hours. But regardless, it might only cover what the differences are between bipolar 1 and bipolar 2, because you were just diagnosed with bipolar 1, or your son was just diagnosed with bipolar 1. And so that doctor, rightly so, needs to explain to you the difference between bipolar 1 and bipolar 2. And that's great. But if you come in already educated on some of these things about bipolar, and there's a difference between being educated on bipolar disorder and going online and reading about bipolar disorder. You can do a Google search and you will find lots of information that I wouldn't feel confident taking as the standard, the gold standard. What we try to do at MedCircle is bringing you mental health information you can trust. So if you watch a series on bipolar disorder or watch some past classes on bipolar disorder, you come into that as an educated patient or an educated supporter. And then that discussion is at a higher level with that psychiatrist. And you're able to make more ground in a shorter amount of time. That's very powerful. So we see already this person saying in the UK, my therapist just reads from a script and then tells me stuff I already know on the internet. Yeah, we don't want that, right? We want to go to therapists and feel like we're getting more than we would somewhere else. And part of that is you getting educated yourself. So you can ask better questions. You can understand maybe more complicated responses or more complicated theories around this. I'm losing my trust and enthusiasm in dating. You know what? We all are. In dating after ghosting and the state of how people treat others nowadays, I was enthusiastic to date first, but I feel like I'm done with humans after some tries. Look, yeah, I hear you. And every person who's ever dated feels that way. Every single person. Is there anyone on here who's just like, I've never gotten tired of dating? It's always been a good experience. So if you are, then you got married probably, or you're still, with your partner. It's so bad. Dating's so difficult. And we don't have to talk about because of COVID and because of all the apps and how social media puts all this pressure on us and blah, 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 blah. And all that matters. But we just all know it just sucks. It just sucks. I look at dating, this is again, just personally, which is what these chats are, right? Not bringing you anything other than Kyle Kittleson chatting on a Monday afternoon. But my thing with dating is move fast. And I know that sounds opposite of what we hear, which is move slow. But when I say move fast, I mean figure out if they're a good match or not for you as quickly as possible. How I was raised in dating was on a first date, or when you get to know somebody, you don't talk about religion or politics. I think first date, you talk about both of those things. Because if you are a super, super liberal person who campaigned for Joe Biden, and you're on a date with somebody, unbeknownst to you, who is an avid Trump supporter, that might not be a good fit. It might be a good fit, but it might not if you're both passionate about these opposite ideologies. Why wouldn't you just want to find that out soon? Right? And go, oh, I didn't know that about you. Okay, well, this probably isn't going to work. I would do that. I would like to know those things before I even go out to dinner, so I don't have to waste the dinner. I have so many friends who date somebody, oh my gosh, for like 6 weeks. And I go, how's it going? It's a long time. Yeah, it's going really good. We get along. We're doing a little trip soon. Oh my gosh, that's so great. So are you guys on the same page about kids? Oh, we haven't talked about that. Okay, so you want kids, yeah. And you don't know if he does? No, we haven't talked about that. Why? Well, I'm afraid if I bring it up, he'll go away. Then he's the wrong guy. If you want kids and you say, hey, we're getting to know each other, I really want kids, I want to know where you stand. And he's like, oh, God, kids already? I don't want to talk about that. He's the wrong guy, in my opinion, right? Maybe he's the best guy. I have no idea. I've never met this person. But I would imagine something to address. Why would you wait 6 weeks to address these inevitable roadblocks? So I look at things. Do you want to get married? Do you want to have kids? What are your political and religious stances? Where do you stand on money and finances? I don't need to see your tax returns, but how do you view money? I've dated people who are big savers. I've dated people who have no problem putting everything on their credit card and worrying about it later. And, those two types of people it's better, I think, to be on the same page on some of these big things. Now, that being said, aren't relationships just complicated anyway and messy? So it's like, maybe you do fall in love with the exact opposite of you and that works out. I look at my parents, my mom and dad, they were really opposite people, really opposite. My mom died when I was 16, but for those 16 years, they were very opposite people and they had a great relationship. I think so, at least I believe they did. So who knows, but at least for Kyle Kittleson, it is more like a job interview than a date. Because I know we're not going to be a match if there are some things that are not in line with what I'm looking for, Oh, well, I'm glad MedCircle popped up. Yeah, make sure you guys subscribe to this YouTube channel. We post new content every week. Some say we're the fastest growing mental health YouTube channel, which is pretty cool. If that's true, we'll probably be at 1 million subscribers soon too. Wow. Somebody saying 3 years, girlfriend of 3 years had sex with another woman. I explained I was open to the idea, but never discussed boundaries. I'm confused. I have therapy today. How would you recommend I go about this? Talk to your therapist. I would maybe just ask that exact question to your therapist and see what they say. Infidelity used to be a hard deal breaker for me. And I forget which doctor I was talking to. It was one of our MedCircle doctors. Shoot, I wish I could remember, because we didn't do a series about this. We were just talking about it. And they didn't say, oh yeah, infidelity is not a big deal. They were like, yeah, that's certainly a big deal. But they're like, we look at infidelity as such a deal breaker. Like, well, then you're done. If you cheat, that you're done. And from what I'm remembering, and this is a faint memory, it was more like, why is this a bigger deal than any other type of, what's the word I'm looking for? Regression? There's a word for that. Bridget probably knows. She's the wordsmith. I thought Bridget might pop in and tell me. But and I'm not saying they're not big deals, but I look at them a lot less emotionally now. If I was in a relationship and if that person cheated on me, I would be so upset. God, I'd be so upset and I'd be very sad. But I would probably very quickly determine, all right, is this a relationship that I want to stay in? Because if this is an isolated incident and everything else has been great and there was some honesty and remorse and some forthcomingness to it all, then I would start asking the question, well, why did this happen? Not saying I'm to blame, but why did this happen? And is there, not that I should have done this to keep him from cheating, but I think it's the responsibility of couples who want to stay in the relationship to both look at the problem honestly and see where they can make adjustments, assist, facilitate some positive action if you've decided to stay in the relationship. One thing that my therapist told me one time that helped so much. I was in a relationship with this guy. We had been together for a long, long time. And the relationship was just we were just not in a good place. But I was so afraid at the time to cut it off because it was a long-term relationship and I didn't want to be alone. I didn't know this about myself at the time, but looking back, those are the reasons. So I took a while to cut it off, and it stressed me out though, because I was like, I should end this relationship, but I'm not going to, and I should, but I'm not going to, blah, blah, blah. And my therapist finally said, Kyle, you act like your decision has to be the final decision. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, you can break up with him tomorrow and then get back together with him on Monday if you want. You can marry him next week and then get a divorce from him if you want. You're not locking yourself into any scenario that you can't get out of. Now, divorce Not a wonderful thing to go through from what I've heard. So we'd like to avoid those. But I was so caught up with, if I make this decision, then that's it, blah, 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 that's it. No, then you just made that decision. And then you'll make more decisions. So it just put me at ease to know that whatever decision I made didn't have to be the finale. It didn't have to be the finale. And he said, and I don't know why you would rush this decision. He's like, why rush it? I'm like, that's true. He's like, you don't have to do anything today. All you have to do today is come to therapy, go home, work, have dinner. You're right. And eventually we did break up, obviously. But so it was just a nice lesson. That's why if you're going through a breakup right now, you should look at it. You should do whatever you want. But one way you could look at it is like, all right, I'm in school. I'm in school about myself. I am learning right now because breakups are just big, hard lessons, nasty lessons. It's like, I remember being in college and having to take finals and just hating it. Just being like, God, this sucks. I just don't want to go through this. I don't want to learn all this, but you had to do it. That's kind of how breakups are. It's like you had to do it. It's going to suck, but you're going to learn a ton. And if you do this breakup right, if you can really do this breakup right, okay? Which, how do you break up right? That's a question for Dr. Ish. If y'all haven't seen our live class with Dr. Ish on dating relationships, you need to watch it. So freaking good. You can watch it at watch.medcircle.com. It's a live class with Dr. Ish. But shoot, now I lost my train of thought. I forgot my train of thought. Bridget, you've been quiet. Is there anything you want to mention? Do you have any lived experience as a young woman dating in today's world?
I'll save it for next week as a cliffhanger so people come back.
Oh. So if you want to hear about Bridget's dating life, subscribe to this YouTube channel. That'd be funny, Bridget, if we just turn this YouTube channel into like your reality dating life thing.
The side project.
Yeah, a little side project. Gwen says this makes me feel uncomfortable. My apologies, I guess. Thank you for all the nice comments. Divorce is sometimes a blessing. I really blossomed. I hear you. I heard somebody say, I think it was a Real Housewife, so take it with a grain of salt. But she said, you know why divorce is so expensive? Because it's worth it. I thought that was pretty clever. I know my camera keeps going out. Hopefully you aren't losing me. Yeah, a lot of people hate dating. I don't hear anybody say I'm dating right now and it's really fun. I hear people go, yeah, I just started dating, so I'm excited. But then when they start dating, they go, oh, it's tough. Yeah, it sucks. And I'll be really honest, I think it is so much harder for women to date for so many reasons, but one of which is, and this isn't every woman, I'm just thinking about what my girlfriends have called me about dating and complained about. You know what they complain about? The getting ready. They go, I spend all this time, all this makeup, making sure I look good, that I've had enough time, that my hair looks good, that I'm blah, blah, blah. I'm getting it all together. And then I show up and this guy's like, not worth it, I go, yeah, that would suck, because how I get ready is I go like this and I put on a shirt and then I go. So if I had to prepare myself for this appearance, yeah, after the third one, I'd go, gosh, I'm not even prepping anymore. I'll prep on a second date. If you get through a first date, then you can see me at my best, I also think, because I have been dating and I've been purposefully putting the real Kyle out there rather than the good looking, best looking, best type, funniest, most charismatic, caring, kind, listening Kyle. Because if I come at you looking on point every day, being so kind, so caring, if I'm just really laying it on thick, well, I'm lying, because that's not who I am. As a human being, that's not naturally who I am. Though I can be that way, and I think it's important that we all be that way, because we have to interact with people and go to parties and events and gatherings, and we need to be nice and polite. But I'm not looking for somebody to see at a party for 15 minutes when I can act incredibly interested at their birdhouse collection, even though I'm not. I'm looking for somebody to be in a relationship with. So you got to like me when I'm cranky. And you got to like me when I haven't been to the gym in 3 months. And you got to like me when I get fired from Med Circle and don't have an income. You got to like me at all these, the realness of it all. So I'm so conscious and intentional with being real me. And that way, if real me rubs someone the wrong way, they don't like it, great to know that now, because then we can. What I'm running into, though, is that people don't show me the real me. People show me an act. It's like, have you ever done this? Have you been on a date and the person across from you, because if you've been on a date with me, I've never said this. The person across from you says, yeah, I'm a really big hiker. I love hiking. So I'll do like the A mountain up here, and I'll go down to Poinsettia peaks and I'll hike those. And then have you ever responded with, I like hiking too, but you don't like hiking? You're literally lying, You're literally lying to the person across from you because it's a first date. You want to be cool. You want to be on the same page. I'm the opposite now. Someone goes, oh yeah, I'm a big hiker. I'm like, oh no. I'll binge the first 5 seasons of Grey's Anatomy in a weekend and not leave my couch, but I will not go on a hike with you. Or I will once a year, because maybe it'd be nice out and pretty to go do that. But I don't want to do that. That's how blunt I am. I think it's just easier that way. Then I don't have to act. And then I hopefully find somebody who signs up for exactly Kyle. They don't sign up for presentation Kyle. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm not a Sagittarius. I'm an Aries. What extent do you think a narcissist could fake while hoovering? Can that indicate if she is a narcissist or not? She does not want to see an expert. I need to meet her next week. I mean, I couldn't tell you. What I think is important for people to remember, and probably the viewers watching this already know, but there is a difference between narcissism and narcissistic personality disorder. So I've talked to a lot of people about, their exes, and it seems like everybody's dated a narcissist at some point. But there is a difference between someone who is narcissistic and someone with NPD, living with NPD. Narcissistic personality disorder, I think, has 9 traits. I think you have to display 5 of them for a certain period of, up to 5 of them or more for a certain period of time. And then within narcissistic personality disorder, there are, I use this with quotes, but like there are different types. There's the grandiose narcissist, which most people would imagine, but then there's other types of narcissism that can be on display. But in order for it to be narcissistic personality disorder, it has to be diagnosed from a professional, have 5 or more of those 9 symptoms for a period of time, and it has to have a negative impact on their life. If they are getting rewarded at work and rewarded in their relationships and display all of those narcissistic traits, I believe, and I could be wrong here, right? Because I'm not a doctor, but I believe that then they cannot qualify for the diagnosis of narcissistic personality disorder. And so before we start labeling everybody all this stuff, we need to be really clear on how it all goes down. That being said, does it really matter if somebody you're dating has the label or not? If you are not being treated well, if you are being gaslighted, if your reality is being questioned, if you're having to make your world about them, if your life is being negatively impacted by this person, who cares what diagnosis they get or don't get? Because you're being negatively impacted. There's a lot of like, well, we got to make sure we get the right diagnosis for this person. I'm more like, we got to make sure we're doing the right thing for you. What do you need right now? And expecting somebody to change to make your life better, I haven't seen a lot of success in that. I'm not suggesting compromise isn't part of relationships, but to see somebody fundamentally change so that your life can be better, I don't know if I really see that. Family are hard to escape you. I want a family and you're willing to put up with a lot of stuff, but in the end they destroy you, also react to them, which means they provoke you more, but I always go back. Family boundaries are incredibly hard. I've talked to many of our doctors about people going, what's it called, Bridget, when you go, you cut contact with somebody?
Cold shoulder, cold turkey. Yeah.
Y'all probably know. Anyway, you basically just say, all right, I'm cutting you out from my life. There's a term. Dr. Ramani has used it a gazillion times. I've talked to doctors who say that the hardest one to break is a parent from their child. If you're a parent and you've raised a child who's exhibiting symptoms of narcissistic personality disorder, and you've tried everything, you've tried the gray rock method, you've gone to therapy, you've tried to keep things mundane in conversations, you've done your healthy boundaries that you can actually enforce long-term, all these things, and you're like, I want to cut off ties. That's the hardest one to do for most people, because you're literally saying, I'm not going to talk to my child anymore. If they call me, I'm not going to answer. They invite me somewhere, I'm not going to go. And if I'm having a party or a Christmas celebration or a special occasion, I'm not going to invite them. That's tough. That's tough. So going that extreme, for lack of a better term, certainly is great for people. Oh my gosh, I get a lot of emails from people who say I did this and I'm so glad I did, but it doesn't mean it's easy. You know, it means it's very hard, in fact. We have a great article on boundaries too. If you go to medcircle.com and click on articles, we have a great guide in there on how to set boundaries specifically with your family. Suggest you look it up. Hi, I just joined, still would like to answer the question. My doc told me to photolysise my clay. Still not sure if I photolysized it right. That's the best thing he told me. I don't even know what you're talking about. Photolyzed clay. Don't know what that is. Why does a sociopath ignore messages? Don't know. I thought I was dating a narcissist, and then I realized I may be the narcissist. And then I realized there's a lot of other things that are mistaken for narcissism. Yes. And remember, narcissism is not a mental health disorder. It's not in the DSM. Narcissism, it'd be like saying, well, I was dating a jerk, and then I thought I was the jerk. And I was like, well, there's a lot of things that come off as being a jerk. You know, that's essentially what you're saying. But it is very interesting when people have the introspection or ask themselves, am I a narcissist? Bridget, don't we have a class on this coming up with Dr. Ramani?
I'm not sure. I'll check.
I think we do. I think we have a class coming up for those who are living with narcissistic personality disorder, and for those who believe that they demonstrate some or a lot of symptoms of narcissism. And again, I'm not a doctor, you need to see a therapist, but I think that if somebody is even asking themselves, am I a narcissist? Do I invalidate people? Do I put myself before anything else? Am I that selfish? Am I that egotistical? Am I that grandiose? Already the fact that you're asking yourself tells me that you may have more insight than a typical person living with narcissistic personality disorder. Because those living with NPD rarely find themselves in therapy, and that's because they're rarely asking themselves, is there anything with me that I can improve on? Their idea of themselves, even though ironically rooted in insecurity, on the surface is that everything is good. And so why was I bringing that up? Sorry, I missed the question. It went too far. But as you start to learn about narcissism, you'll likely, as you just mentioned, see that it can overlap in other type of mental health disorders. And again, I'm not a doctor, so I don't even really like talking from a doctor perspective. Not that that's exactly what this is, but especially with some of the personality disorders, I think that's where those hints of narcissism can often appear. It can often make things confusing. And I know we just had a little discussion about, if they get the diagnosis or not, who cares? They're still acting like a narcissist. But in terms of having the right treatment for an individual, that is dictated largely by the diagnosis. So if you have someone diagnosed with, disorder A incorrectly, and they get treated incorrectly for disorder A, that is unlikely to generate great results. But if you get the correct diagnosis of disorder B and you have the right treatment for disorder B, then you're more likely to get those results. So finding that right diagnosis, at least for yourself in treatment or someone you love for treatment, is really critical because it informs treatment. All right, let's have a few more questions here, and then we'll go, and then I'll leave. And I'm gonna leave. Okay, hi Kyle, hi. Watching from Ireland. I don't know why I said it in a Southern accent. I think I was trying to say Ireland like people do in Ireland, but I said it like a Southern. I don't do accents. Do you have a video, or are you planning one on how to make relationships with people with NPD or APD, antisocial personality disorder, work? Kanika Batra talks about how self-awareness can make those people treat others well. We do have some discussions on that. One thing we're working on right now that I'll reveal is putting together an interview with someone who has been diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder. There are self-described narcissists on the internet. I'm not interested in speaking with someone who thinks they are a narcissist, but I am interested in speaking with someone who has been diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder and has either tried treatment or is in treatment, and to get their experience on that. I think that is going to be really telling on, I think that will provide a lot of insight into some of those questions. If you've not watched our free series on narcissism, you can watch.medcircle.com to do that. You can also download our app for free, MedCircle, in all the app stores. When you download it, you can sign in, and then there is a selection of complimentary videos, and there's at least one in there on narcissism. There might be two actually. So if you're interested in getting that content, you can. It's 100% free. You don't have to give your credit card or anything. You just watch it. In Germany, the issues of narcissism is not common in therapeutic circles. Interesting. I'm ADHD. I do have a slight case of bipolar. I can be rather emotional. Thank God most of the time I'm not depressed. The awareness is really good there. Kyle, do you think anyone can be in a healthy relationship with someone who is a narcissist? Well, I think it depends on how you define healthy in a healthy relationship, and how you define someone as a narcissist. Because there are people on the internet who think I'm a narcissist. And I have asked Dr. Ramani publicly on camera. I've also asked my personal psychologist and psychiatrist if I exhibit any tendencies of anything outside actually of depression and anxiety. And I did get one case of social anxiety that was later retracted, but everything else, but never narcissism. So could somebody be in a happy relationship with me? Yes. And there are people who think I'm a narcissist. So there you go. But if somebody is showing the true signs of narcissistic personality disorder, I don't know how you as somebody who isn't on board for that to have a healthy relationship. But what it is possible. It is possible. And it does happen. I can hear Dr. Ramani in my ear going right now saying, if you have decided to stay in a relationship with somebody, and no judgment, why? Maybe you got kids, maybe there's financial reasons, maybe it's just easier, who knows? Maybe there's cultural implications, there's lots of reasons. And no judgment, you do you. You want to be with the narcissist, be with the narcissist. But if you're going to be with the narcissist, radical acceptance have to happen. Notice how I put the word radical, because that's how it was described to me, in front of the word acceptance. You can't just accept that he's going to disregard you when you tell him you got a promotion at work. You can't just accept that when you and your girlfriends come home, he makes some offhanded comment about how terrible you look and then goes away. You have to radically accept if you're going to stay in the relationship, and then if you're ever in danger, then you would want to go seek safety and professional help. But if you're going to voluntarily and commit yourself to that, it has to be radical acceptance. And that is hard. That's the thing, is we get these tips in mental health a lot, and people are like, well, that's difficult. I go, yeah, this is difficult because it's a difficult situation. The answers are not always simple to implement. They're typically simple in their explanation, though, which I like. We know what we have to do fundamentally. We understand. It's not a hard concept to understand. I just have to accept this person as they are. It's very hard to accept them as they are, though. You know what I mean? And how you do that is through a variety of skills that I wouldn't even. You have to practice it. You have to be an expert gray rocker. If you're not an expert on the gray rock method, become one. You have to find validation and support outside of that relationship. So when your boss gives you a promotion at work and you want to call your narcissistic partner and say, oh my gosh, I just got this raise, it's so great. And you want them to say, you deserve it, I'm so proud of you, and we're going to celebrate tonight and go out to dinner at your favorite place. Oh, that's so great, I can't wait, I'll be home a little bit. Good, I love you. You're not going to get that conversation. You're going to get, hey, I just got a promotion at work. And they're like, why would they give you a promotion? You can't be surprised that he said that, because we knew that's what was going to happen. So you have to call your best friend Tracy and go, girl, I got a promotion. And Tracy's like, that's right, we're going to go out tonight because you're it. You're the girl. You're the woman. We're going to go out and celebrate. And then you have to get all that validation from there. And then when you go home, he goes, how's your day? I was fine. Got a little promotion at work, celebrated with the girls. But how was your day? Right back in their court. This was a fun conversation. We got a little off topic, but I like talking about these things. What we're going to do, though, we believe, is we're going to start doing these each week, and we're going to bring people on. So it won't just be me talking. I bet everybody was like, thank you. It won't just be me talking. So we'll have MedCircle members perhaps pop on with just audio, perhaps pop on with video, and we'll have these conversations and discussions. It's not going to be anything necessarily educational. It's not going to be anything diagnostic. We're not going to go through the signs and symptoms of a certain disorder. We're just here to talk. We might talk about mental health. We might talk about why we like dogs so much. Who knows? It's truly just a chat time, but I bet we'll talk a lot about mental health, since that's what they do here. Any other questions or comments before I jump off? Kyle, why would anyone work that hard to have any joy in a relationship? Why not find a healthy person? Simon, you might have kids with that person. You might be financially dependent on that person. You might be in a city or culture that makes that very difficult to move away from. You might not be ready to leave because you've been with them for so long. Sometimes the unknown is scarier than the known. So there's lots of reasons. And I know we're going off a little here. It's not just, all right, I'm in a relationship with a narcissist, what do I do? We have to know how to support our friends and family members who are in relationships with narcissists. And I can go off on that because so many individuals in a relationship with a narcissist are gaslit by their close friends and family because the narcissist has convinced the friends and family that he's so great. So when the individual goes to their trusted friend and saying, I'm having a problem with Brad, he's doing this, he's doing that, I just don't know about it. They don't say, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry you're going through that. Thank you for coming to me. I'm glad you feel comfortable talking about that. what can I do? Instead, they say, really, Brad? He's so nice. He's like the best guy. You're lucky to be married to him. You should hear what Jason does. He's actually the work. They completely get invalidated. They get gaslit by their own friends. So we have to understand that when someone comes to us and says something that doesn't match what we've seen, we cannot base our experience we cannot use our experience to invalidate what they are much closer to. It's like when people tell me, it's not like this, but it reminds me of when people give me these comments online about my personal life. I'm like, I mean, I'm getting an important message. Hold on. Oh, sorry, important message, wanted to get to it. So, yeah, and I used to be so bad at this too. Oh my gosh, people, my friends would come to me and they would complain about whatever, their boss, their other friend, their spouse, their parent. And I would kind of be like, I don't know. That doesn't seem, your life doesn't seem like how I picture it, completely disregard what they're coming to me. It was so wrong. It was so wrong, but I didn't know any better. Okay. Now I don't do that. If I'm friends with both couples and one of them comes to me and starts venting or something, I do nothing but listen. If they ask me a question, I'll answer. If I feel like I can ask something comforting or whatnot, I'll ask it. But for the most part, I'm just there to listen. It took me a long time to be a listener though, because I'm a talker, right? I've been talking for an hour. I like to talk. I love to give my opinion. So for someone like me who loves to talk, loves to be heard, loves to be right, loves to give their opinion, it's hard for me to just sit there and listen to, especially if I think like, oh my God, you're making a mistake. I just have to listen to you make this mistake. But I do. And I don't do it with that face. I do it much better. You have to practice it. Dr. Ramani taught me not all of this, but a lot of what we talked about today. And I'd like to end on the concept of empathy. All of this can stem from empathy. I practiced a fraction of the empathic listening, empathic questioning that I do today. And when I met Dr. Ramani on our, third or fourth series, during the series, I asked her what's the most important thing a parent should teach their child. She says empathy. She did not hesitate. She said it right away. She said hands down. I mean, she was just very clear that that's the most important thing. And since then, there's so much evidence that that is the most important thing. Do not get confused that it's the only thing. Just saying, if you do that, a lot of other things work itself out. In my opinion, resilience is the second thing people need to be taught. We just don't have resilience anymore, in my opinion. But when I realized that's how important Dr. Ramani told me empathy was, and I knew I was not doing a good job in that space, my goal for the whole year was practice empathy anywhere I could. And so much of that was just practice listening. So on an airplane, and part of that discussion was don't practice on the most important people in your life, practice on the people who don't matter. The person you're sitting next to on an airplane who you're not going to see again. When you get those people chatting, I used to go, oh, okay, well, thank you. I'm putting my earphones, open my book, whatever, like that. I don't want to talk to anybody. Now I go, oh, okay, well, you're okay. I'm going to listen. That must have been hard. I do the whole thing. And I'm not acting. That looked like I was acting. I'm really listening, but I'm not blowing them up. I'm choosing to engage with them, which gives me practice. And then when somebody who really matters in my life comes to me, I'm like, I'm ready for the big game because I've been practicing. Really helpful for me. Hopefully it's helped somebody else. Thank you all for being here. Go to medcircle.com if you haven't already and subscribe to this YouTube channel. I'm Kyle Kittleson. Most importantly, remember, whatever you're going through, you got this.